They towed my grandfather's sailboat off my own private lake at dawn, left a fake lien notice nailed to my dock, and told the whole neighborhood I was a squatter on my own land. Big mistake. Because what they didn't know? I'm a licensed surveyor and civil engineer, and that HOA lake they've been charging fees for? It's been sitting on my deeded property line for 37 years. Tell me where you're watching from. And has your HOA ever tried to reclaim something that was never theirs? My name is Daniel Archer. 49, widowed 6 years ago, one daughter. Emma, 16, junior in high school, varsity swim team. After my wife passed, we moved back to my childhood home in Ridgemont Pines, a quiet neighborhood an hour outside Charlotte. The house sits on 11 acres at the edge of a spring-fed lake. My grandfather built the dock in 1986. He taught me to sail on that water in a little wooden Lightning-class sloop he'd restored himself, the Iris, named after my grandmother. When Emma and I arrived, the neighborhood had changed. Ridgemont Pines HOA had formed in the early 2000s, and the board, led by a woman named Diane Korman, ran it like a fiefdom. Diane was 62, a retired real estate agent with shellacked blonde hair, a voice like a car alarm, and an unshakable belief that every blade of grass, every mailbox, every thought in Ridgemont Pines required her approval. But here's the thing. My property predates the HOA by decades. My deed explicitly excludes me from their covenants. I'm not a member. I don't pay their fees. And the lake? According to my grandfather's survey plats and the county GIS, the entire western half, including my dock, is on my land. For the first year, we kept our heads down. I worked from home, consulting on civil projects. Emma made friends, joined the swim team, started to smile again. The Iris sat at the dock, sails furled, waiting for weekends. It was the one piece of my father's father I had left, the one thing that still felt like family. Then, 3 months ago, Diane knocked on my door. It was a Saturday morning in late April. I was on the porch with coffee when her white Lexus crunched up the gravel drive. She stepped out in a pastel pantsuit and oversized sunglasses, holding a leather portfolio like a bailiff's summons. "Mr. Archer," she said, not waiting for an invitation. "We need to discuss your compliance issues." "I'm not in the HOA, Diane." The Ridgemont Pines Community Lake Access Agreement of 2004 clearly states. That agreement was signed by homeowners who joined the HOA. I didn't. My deed is from 1983. It's grandfathered. She smiled, thin, sharp. "Your boat is moored on community water. That makes it subject to HOA dock regulations. You're required to register it, pay the annual dock fee of $300, and display a current decal. The dock is on my property. So is half the lake." The HOA Lake Committee performed a boundary survey in 2003. "The lake is not your property." "Then your surveyor made a mistake. I can show you the plats." Her smile didn't waver. "You have 14 days to register the vessel and pay the fee, or the HOA will exercise its right to remove non-compliant watercraft." She left the notice on my porch rail, a single sheet of laser-printed text on fake linen cardstock, signed Ridgemont Pines Board of Directors. Emma came out as the Lexus rolled away. What did she want? Money she's not entitled to. Are we going to pay it? No. I filed the notice in a folder and forgot about it. That was my first mistake. 14 days later, I woke at 5:47 a.m. to the growl of a diesel engine on the lake. I pulled on jeans and ran barefoot down the slope. A flatbed trailer was backed into the water at the public boat ramp, 200 yards south, technically HOA common area. 2 men in neon vests were winching the Iris onto the trailer. A magnetic sign on the truck door read, "Ridgemont Pines Community Services." "Hey," I sprinted down the dock. "That's my boat." The older man, 50-something with a gray goatee, glanced at a clipboard. "Unregistered vessel. HOA authorization. I own this dock. You're on my property. Lake's HOA property, buddy. Take it up with the board." "Where are you taking her?" "Impound lot. You can reclaim it after you pay the fee, plus towing and storage. Have a nice day." They drove off. I stood there in the dawn light, chest heaving, watching my grandfather's sailboat disappear up the hill. When I called Diane an hour later, she was chipper. "Mr. Archer, I trust you received our final notice. You stole my boat. We removed an unregistered vessel from HOA waters. You're welcome to reclaim it once you've paid the dock fee, the removal fee, $200, and daily storage, $15 per day. I'm not paying you a dime. That's theft. It's enforcement. If you'd like to dispute it, you're welcome to appear before the board at our next meeting. June 4th, 7 p.m., Clubhouse. Good luck, Mr. Archer. She hung up. I pulled the survey plats my grandfather had filed in 1983, hand-drawn, signed by a licensed surveyor, recorded with the county. The lake's western boundary was clear. It ran along a natural ridgeline that put my dock, and 30 feet of water beyond it, on my side. I scanned the plats, drafted a formal letter citing the deed and county records, and emailed it to the HOA board that afternoon. Subject line: demand for immediate return of stolen property. Diane's reply came 10 minutes later. Your plat is outdated and superseded by the 2003 community survey. The board stands by its decision. See you June 4th. I called the county assessor's office. They confirmed my property line matched the 1983 plat. The HOA's 2003 survey had never been filed with the county. It wasn't legally binding. I had the proof. I had the law. I thought that would be enough. I was wrong. 2 days later, Emma came home from school in tears. She dropped her backpack in the kitchen and wouldn't look at me. What happened? Kids are saying we're squatters. That we don't own the house. That you're, scamming the neighborhood. Who's saying that? Everyone. Jenna's mom is on the HOA board. She told Jenna we're under investigation. I pulled her into a hug. We own this house free and clear. Diane's lying because I won't pay her fake fees. Can she kick us out? No. I promise. But that night, I checked the Ridgemont Pines Facebook group, a private page I'd been added to when we moved in. The top post, from Diane, had 63 comments. Reminder: all residents must comply with HOA covenants. We are currently addressing a non-compliance issue involving an unregistered vessel and unpaid fees. The board takes these matters seriously to protect our property values. Thank you for your cooperation. She even added emojis of a house and a heart. The comments were a mix of support and curiosity. Someone asked who. Another replied, the guy on Lakeview Trail. The one who thinks he's above the rules. I didn't respond. Engaging would only feed it. The next morning, I found a letter in my mailbox. Not mailed, hand-delivered. Cream-colored envelope, no return address. Inside, a single sheet of county letterhead. Notice of lien, unpaid HOA assessments. Property, 447, Lakeview Trail. Owner, Daniel Archer. Amount due, $1,247. Fees, penalties, legal costs. Failure to remit payment within 30 days may result in foreclosure proceedings per NC General Statute 47F-3-116. It looked official, county seal, case number, even a clerk's signature stamp. I drove to the county clerk's office that afternoon. The clerk, a kind woman in her 60s, searched the lien database. Nothing under your name or address, Mr. Archer. Can you check this case number? She squinted at the letter. That's not our format. And we don't use that statute. It's for condos, not HOAs. This is fake. Can I get a written statement saying there's no lien? Absolutely. She printed a one-page certification. No liens on record for 447, Lakeview Trail, as of May 14th, 2025. I drove home with a knot in my stomach. Diane wasn't just playing hardball. She was forging documents. That night, I did what I should have done from the start. I hired a lawyer. Not some solo practitioner. I called an old college friend, Marcus Levin, who'd gone into real estate litigation in Raleigh. We'd sailed together in grad school. He knew the iris. He knew what it meant. Danny, he said after I'd laid it all out. This is worse than you think. How? Fake liens are a felony. If she's forging county documents, she's not just power tripping. She's running a scam. How many people in your HOA? 140 homes. And how many do you think just paid when they got a letter like this? I hadn't thought about it. I don't know. Neither do I. But I'd bet money you're not the first. I'm going to draft a demand letter, return the boat, cease contact, and preserve all records. If she doesn't comply in 7 days, we file suit. But Danny, yeah, watch your back. People who forge liens don't stop at boats. He was right. 3 days later, I was in the garage, organizing tools, when I heard Emma scream. I sprinted outside. She was on the porch, phone in hand, staring at the driveway. Someone had spray-painted the gravel in huge red letters. Squatter. And nailed to the front door, another notice, this one on fake sheriff's department letterhead. Eviction notice, trespassing. You have 72 hours to vacate the premises or face arrest. I pulled it down, hands shaking. The county seal was wrong, slightly pixelated, like a bad Photoshop. The deputy's signature was illegible. Emma was crying. Dad, are they going to arrest you? No, this is fake. I promise. But as I held her, I realized Diane wasn't trying to win. She was trying to break me, and she just made it personal. So there I was, standing in my driveway, my 16-year-old daughter sobbing on the porch, a fake eviction notice in my hand, and the word squatter spray painted across my gravel in letters 3 feet tall. Diane Korman and her HOA board had stolen my grandfather's boat, forged a lien, and now they were escalating to fake law enforcement documents. Marcus had warned me, people who forge liens don't stop at boats. He was right. But what Diane didn't know, what nobody in Ridgemont Pines knew, was that I'd spent 15 years surveying disputed land for the Army Corps of Engineers and another decade consulting on civil fraud cases. I knew how to read a plat. I knew how to track a paper trail. And I knew that when someone forges a government document, they leave breadcrumbs. It was time to stop reacting and start building a case. I called Marcus from the porch while Emma was inside washing her face. They just delivered a fake eviction notice. Sheriff's letterhead, 72-hour deadline. Jesus, don't touch it. Photograph everything. Front, back, envelope if there is one. I'm filing an emergency motion for a restraining order, and we're going to the sheriff's office today. Will they take it seriously? Impersonating law enforcement? Yeah, Danny, they'll take it seriously. An hour later, we were sitting across from Sergeant Holloway at the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office. He was mid-40s, buzz-cut, the kind of cop who'd seen everything twice. I laid the fake eviction notice on his desk. He picked it up, studied it for 10 seconds, then set it down. This is garbage. Can you tell? Seal's wrong. Font's wrong. We don't use eviction notice for trespass. We'd issue a criminal summons. And this signature. He tapped the bottom. Deputy R. Kowalski. We don't have a Kowalski. Never have. So what do? File a report. I'll forward it to our fraud unit. If they're forging sheriff documents, that's a Class 1 felony. You got any idea who did this? HOA President. Diane Korman. He wrote it down. She do anything else? I told him about the boat, the fake lien, the spray paint. He listened, took notes, then leaned back. Mr. Archer, I'm going to be straight with you. This is civil until it's not. The boat's a property dispute. The lien's fraud, but the DA won't move unless you've got hard proof she made it. The fake eviction notice? That's criminal. We'll investigate. But in the meantime, you need to protect yourself. How? Cameras. Document everything. And if she shows up on your property again, call 911. Don't engage. Marcus nodded. We're also filing a restraining order and a lawsuit. But Sergeant Holloway's right. Evidence is everything. We left with a case number and a sinking feeling that this was going to get worse before it got better. That afternoon, I installed 4 security cameras, 2 on the porch, 1 covering the driveway, 1 aimed at the dock. I linked them to cloud storage and set up motion alerts on my phone. Then I started digging. I pulled every document I had. My deed, my grandfather's 1983 survey, the county's GIS map, the HOA's covenants, which I'd never signed, and the fake lien. I overlaid the plats in CAD software and confirmed what I already knew. The lake's western boundary ran along a ridgeline that put my dock in 30 feet of water on my side. The HOA's 2003 survey didn't exist in county records because it had never been filed. But here's what I didn't know. Who'd done that survey and why the HOA was so confident it was real. I called the county GIS office and asked for any surveys filed for Ridgemont Pines after 2000. They sent me 3 PDFs. 2 were subdivision plats for new streets. The third was a lake boundary study, dated March 2003, signed by a surveyor named Gerald Tompkins, PLS. I ran Tompkins through the state licensing board. His license had been revoked in 2007 for fraudulent surveys and misrepresentation. He died in 2019. So the HOA's entire claim to the lake rested on a survey by a guy who'd lost his license for fraud, never filed the survey with the county, and was now dead. I saved everything to a folder labeled Evidence, Lake Boundary Fraud. Then I got a call from Marcus. "Danny, we've got a problem." "What now?" "I just got a letter from the HOA's attorney. They're suing you." The lawsuit arrived by certified mail the next morning. Ridgemont Pines, HOA v. Daniel Archer. They were seeking $12,000 in unpaid assessments dating back to 2018 when I'd moved in. An injunction to force me to join the HOA and comply with covenants. Legal fees. The complaint claimed I was unjustly enriching myself by using community amenities, the lake, without paying fees, and that my refusal to join the HOA was undermining property values. Marcus read it over the phone, his voice tight. "This is a SLAPP suit, strategic lawsuit against public participation. They're trying to bury you in legal costs, so you'll settle. Can they win? Not on the merits. Your deed is ironclad. But they don't need to win. They just need to bleed you dry. Discovery alone could cost you 20 grand. So what do? We file an anti-SLAPP motion and countersue for malicious prosecution, theft, and fraud. But Danny, there's something else." "What?" "The attorney who signed this complaint? His name is Richard Korman." I went cold. As in, Diane's husband. He's a solo practitioner in Charlotte. Mostly does wills and closings, but he's licensed. This whole thing is a family operation. I sat down. So she's got a lawyer in her pocket. Worse, she's got a lawyer who'll forge documents for her. Because I guarantee you, that fake lien didn't come from nowhere. Can we prove it? Not yet, but we're going to. Comment below, would you fight back legally or strike harder? Because what I'm about to do next walks a very fine line. That night, I made a list of everyone who might help me. First, Marcus Levin, my lawyer, already on board. Second, Sergeant Holloway, Sheriff's Fraud Unit, investigating the fake eviction. Third, County Clerk's Office, confirmed no lien on record. Fourth, State Surveyor Licensing Board, confirmed Tompkins revoked license. Fifth, neighbors, unknown. The last one was the gamble. I didn't know who in Ridgemont Pines had been scammed, who was loyal to Diane, or who was just scared, but I needed to find out. I started with the family across the street, Tom and Linda Nguyen, late 60s, retired. I'd waved to them a few times, but never really talked. I knocked on their door at 6 p.m. with a plate of Emma's cookies, her idea. Linda answered. "Daniel, what a nice surprise." "Hi, Linda. I wanted to ask you something. Have you ever had trouble with the HOA?" Her smile faded. Tom appeared behind her. "What kind of trouble?" I told them, briefly, about the boat, the fake lien, the lawsuit. Tom's jaw tightened. "They did the same thing to us. 2 years ago." "What happened?" "We planted a vegetable garden in our backyard. Diane said it violated the aesthetic standards. She sent us a fine, $500. We ignored it. Then we got a lien notice, just like yours. We panicked and paid it. Did you ever check if the lien was real?" "No. We didn't want to lose the house." Linda's eyes filled. "We're on a fixed income. We couldn't afford a lawyer." I felt sick. "How many other people do you think she's done this to?" "I don't know. But people are afraid of her. Would you be willing to talk to my lawyer? Maybe testify?" Tom hesitated. Linda nodded. "Yes, if it'll stop her." Over the next week, I quietly knocked on doors. Out of 23 homes I visited, 11 had similar stories. Fake fines for mailbox colors, lawn height, holiday decorations. Threatening letters on fake county or law firm letterhead. Liens that were never filed but scared people into paying. Most had paid between $300 and $1,500. One couple, Jerry and Susan Holt, had paid $4,200 over 3 years because Diane claimed their fence was 2 inches over the property line and charged them daily non-compliance fees. I compiled affidavits. Marcus drafted subpoenas for HOA financial records. We were building a case. But then, 2 days before the June 4th board meeting, I got a call from Emma's school. "Mr. Archer, this is Principal Dawson. We need you to come in. There's been an incident." I arrived at the school 20 minutes later. Emma was sitting in the principal's office, red-eyed. Principal Dawson, a calm, gray-haired woman I'd met once at orientation, gestured to a chair. "Mr. Archer, a report was filed with us this morning alleging that Emma has been experiencing instability at home due to a housing crisis." The report came from a concerned parent. My blood went cold. "Who? I can't disclose that. But I'm required to ask. Is your family facing eviction?" "No, absolutely not. Someone forged an eviction notice to harass us." I filed a police report. She studied me. "Can you provide documentation?" I pulled up the sheriff's case number on my phone and showed her. "We're also suing the HOA for fraud. This is retaliation." She nodded slowly. "I believe you. But I need to note this in Emma's file. If another report comes in, the school is required to contact Child Protective Services." Emma's voice cracked. "Dad, I didn't do anything." "I know, sweetheart." Principal Dawson softened. "Emma's a good kid. But Mr. Archer, whoever's doing this is playing dirty. Be careful." We left. In the car, Emma stared out the window. "I hate her." "I know. When does it stop?" "Soon. I promise." But I didn't know if that was true. That night, my phone buzzed. Motion alert. Driveway camera. I pulled up the feed. A white Lexus was idling at the end of my driveway. Diane was in the driver's seat, staring at the house. She sat there for 30 seconds, then drove away. I saved the video and sent it to Marcus and Sergeant Holloway with one word: escalation. The board meeting was in 2 days. I had affidavits from 11 families, proof of a fraudulent survey, and a lawsuit against an HOA president who was now stalking my home. It was time to go public. I started with the family across the street, Tom and Linda Nguyen, late 60s, retired. I'd waved to them a few times, but never really talked. I knocked on their door at 6 p.m. with a plate of Emma's cookies, her idea. Linda answered. "Daniel, what a nice surprise." "Hi, Linda. I wanted to ask you something. Have you ever had trouble with the HOA?" Her smile faded. Tom appeared behind her. "What kind of trouble?" I told them, briefly, about the boat, the fake lien, the lawsuit. Tom's jaw tightened. "They did the same thing to us. 2 years ago." "What happened?" "We planted a vegetable garden in our backyard. Diane said it violated the aesthetic standards. She sent us a fine, $500. We ignored it. Then we got a lien notice, just like yours. We panicked and paid it." "Did you ever check if the lien was real?" "No. We didn't want to lose the house." Linda's eyes filled. "We're on a fixed income. We couldn't afford a lawyer." I felt sick. "How many other people do you think she's done this to?" "I don't know. But people are afraid of her." "Would you be willing to talk to my lawyer? Maybe testify?" Tom hesitated. Linda nodded. "Yes, if it'll stop her." Over the next week, I quietly knocked on doors. Out of 23 homes I visited, 11 had similar stories. Fake fines for mailbox colors, lawn height, holiday decorations. Threatening letters on fake county or law firm letterhead. Liens that were never filed but scared people into paying. Most had paid between $300 and $1,500. One couple, Jerry and Susan Holt, had paid $4,200 over 3 years because Diane claimed their fence was 2 inches over the property line and charged them daily non-compliance fees. I compiled affidavits. Marcus drafted subpoenas for HOA financial records. We were building a case. But then, 2 days before the June 4th board meeting, I got a call from Emma's school. "Mr. Archer, this is Principal Dawson. We need you to come in. There's been an incident." I arrived at the school 20 minutes later. Emma was sitting in the principal's office, red-eyed. Principal Dawson, a calm, gray-haired woman I'd met once at orientation, gestured to a chair. "Mr. Archer, a report was filed with us this morning alleging that Emma has been experiencing instability at home due to a housing crisis. The report came from a concerned parent. My blood went cold. Who? I can't disclose that. But I'm required to ask. Is your family facing eviction? No, absolutely not. Someone forged an eviction notice to harass us. I filed a police report. She studied me. Can you provide documentation? I pulled up the sheriff's case number on my phone and showed her. We're also suing the HOA for fraud. This is retaliation. She nodded slowly. I believe you. But I need to note this in Emma's file. If another report comes in, the school is required to contact Child Protective Services. Emma's voice cracked. Dad, I didn't do anything. I know, sweetheart. Principal Dawson softened. Emma's a good kid. But Mr. Archer, whoever's doing this is playing dirty. Be careful. We left. In the car, Emma stared out the window. I hate her. I know. When does it stop? Soon. I promise. But I didn't know if that was true. That night, my phone buzzed. Motion alert, driveway camera. I pulled up the feed. A white Lexus was idling at the end of my driveway. Diane was in the driver's seat, staring at the house. She sat there for 30 seconds, then drove away. I saved the video and sent it to Marcus and Sergeant Holloway with one word. Escalation. The board meeting was in 2 days. I had affidavits from 11 families, proof of a fraudulent survey, and a lawsuit against an HOA president who was now stalking my home. It was time to go public. Diane Korman had stolen my boat, forged a lien, impersonated law enforcement, filed a SLAPP suit through her husband's law firm, reported my daughter to her school for a fake housing crisis, and stalked my house at night. But she'd also made one critical mistake. She'd done the same thing to at least 11 other families in Ridgemont Pines, and now they were ready to talk. The HOA board meeting was scheduled for June 4th, 7 p.m., at the clubhouse. Marcus and I had 2 days to prepare. We had affidavits, financial records subpoenaed from the HOA's bank, and a forensic surveyor ready to testify that the 2003 lake boundary study was fraudulent. But we needed one more thing. We needed Diane to incriminate herself in front of the entire neighborhood. And I had a plan for that. Marcus and I spent June 3rd in his Raleigh office, laying out the case like a trial. He'd filed a motion to compel the HOA to produce financial records, every bank statement, invoice, and receipt for the past 5 years. The judge had granted it. The records arrived via email at 9 a.m. on June 3rd. Marcus opened the Excel file and went pale. Danny, look at this. I leaned over his shoulder. The HOA's operating account showed regular deposits, monthly dues from homeowners, about $140 per month per household. Standard. But there was a second account, labeled Special Assessments and Compliance. Over the past 4 years, that account had received $287,000 in deposits, listed as lien payments, compliance fees, legal cost reimbursements, and towing/impound fees. How much of that is legitimate? I asked. Marcus scrolled. Maybe 20%. The rest? Fake fines, fake liens, fake fees. And look where it's going. He filtered the withdrawals. 90% went to 3 places. First of all, Korman and Associates Legal, Richard's firm, $104,000. Secondly, Ridgemont Community Services, LLC, the fake towing company, $68,000. Thirdly, D. Korman, board salary, $91,000. She's paying herself a salary? I said. HOA presidents don't get salaries unless the covenants allow it. Let me check. He pulled up the Ridgemont Pines covenants. Nope. Board service is volunteer. She's embezzling. I sat back. So she's been running a protection racket. Fake fines, fake liens, fake towing, and pocketing the money. And her husband's law firm is laundering it through legal fees. This is fraud, Danny. Organized fraud. Can we prove it? We've got the bank records. We've got affidavits from 11 families who paid fake fees. We've got the fake lien you received, which was never filed with the county. And we've got the fake eviction notice, which is a felony. Yeah, we can prove it. So what do? Marcus smiled. We go to the board meeting. We present the evidence. And we let the neighborhood vote her out, live and in person. She'll try to shut us down. She will. But here's the thing. Under North Carolina HOA law, Homeowners have the right to speak at board meetings. She can't silence you without violating the bylaws. And if she tries, we've got leverage. What leverage? He pulled a document from his briefcase. I filed a motion this morning to freeze the HOA's bank accounts pending a fraud investigation. The judge signed it an hour ago. Effective immediately, Diane can't move money. If she tries to cancel the meeting or retaliate, we go to the sheriff with everything we have, and she's arrested. I exhaled. So we've got her cornered. We've got her cornered. Now we just need to make sure the neighborhood sees it. June 4th, 6:45 p.m. The Ridgemont Pines Clubhouse was a low brick building next to the pool, with a meeting room that held maybe 80 people. By the time I arrived with Emma and Marcus, every seat was full. People stood along the walls. I recognized faces, neighbors I'd waved to, families I'd never spoken to, and the 11 people who'd given affidavits. Tom and Linda and Gwen sat in the front row. Tom gave me a small nod. Diane sat at a folding table at the front, flanked by 4 other board members, 2 men in polos, 1 woman in a blazer, and Richard Korman, her husband, in a cheap suit. He had thinning hair and the expression of a man who'd been caught cheating at cards, but thought he could still bluff his way out. Diane spotted me, and her smile went sharp. She leaned over and whispered something to Richard. He wrote a note. At 7 p.m. sharp, Diane banged a gavel. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's board meeting. We have a full agenda, so let's get started. First order of business, approval of last month's minutes. A board member moved to approve. Another seconded. Diane didn't ask for discussion. All in favor. For hands went up. Diane's gavel banged. Motion carries. Next, treasurer's report. The treasurer, a nervous man in his 50s, cleared his throat and read from a printout. Operating account balance, $14,227. Special assessments account, $38,450. No unusual expenses this month. I stood. I'd like to ask a question about the special assessments account. Diane's smile didn't waver. We'll have time for homeowner comments at the end of the meeting, Mr. Archer. Please sit down. Marcus stood beside me. Under North Carolina General Statute 47F, homeowners have the right to address the board during any discussion of financial matters. You can't defer this. Richard leaned forward. And you are? Marcus Levin, attorney for Mr. Archer. I'm also here to inform the board that as of this morning, both HOA accounts have been frozen by court order pending a fraud investigation. The room went silent. Diane's smile vanished. That's absurd. On what grounds? On the grounds that your special assessments account has received $287,000 in fraudulent payments over the past 4 years, and that you've embezzled $91,000 of it as an unauthorized salary. The room erupted. People shouted questions. Diane banged the gavel. This is a baseless accusation. Mr. Levin, if you continue to disrupt this meeting. I'm not disrupting. I'm presenting evidence. Marcus pulled a folder from his briefcase and handed copies to the board in the front row. These are bank records subpoenaed under court order. Page 3 shows every deposit to the special assessments account. Page 7 shows withdrawals to Korman and Associates Legal, Ridgemont Community Services LLC, and a personal account under your name. Diane's face went white. Richard stood. These records are privileged. They're not. They're HOA records, which are subject to disclosure under the bylaws. Every homeowner here has a right to see them. Tom and Gwen stood. I paid $1,200 to this HOA 2 years ago for a fake lien. I want to know where that money went. Another voice. I paid $800 for a towing fee when they took my trailer. Was that fake too? Diane banged the gavel. This meeting is not a forum for personal grievances. Yes, it is. I stepped forward. Because you've been running a scam. You've been sending fake liens, fake fines, and fake legal threats to scare people into paying money you're not owed. And then you've been pocketing it. That's slander. It's documented. I held up the fake lien I'd received. This is the lien notice you sent me. It's on fake county letterhead. The case number doesn't exist. The clerk's signature is forged. I have a certified letter from the county clerk stating there is no lien on my property. You committed fraud. Richard stood. My client. Your wife, Marcus cut in. Let's be clear. You're not an objective attorney here. You're complicit. Your law firm received $104,000 from the HOA over 4 years for legal services. What services? Because I've reviewed every lawsuit the HOA has filed, and there are only 2, both in the last month. So where did that money go? Richard's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. Diane stood, gripping the table. This meeting is over. No, it's not, Tom said. I move to remove Diane Korman as HOA president, effective immediately. Second, Linda said. Diane's voice cracked. You can't. We can, Marcus said. Under the bylaws, any homeowner can call for a vote of no confidence. All in favor. Hands shot up across the room. I counted quickly, at least 60. All opposed. For hands. The board members. Marcus nodded. Motion carries. Diane Korman is removed as president. Diane grabbed her purse and bolted for the door. Richard followed. The room erupted in applause. But I wasn't done yet. Wait, I called. The room quieted. Before she leaves, there's one more thing. Diane stopped at the door, her back to the room. My grandfather's sailboat. The Iris. You had it towed off my dock 3 weeks ago and claimed it was on HOA property. But the dock is on my land. I have the survey plats to prove it. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me where my boat is, and you're going to return it tonight. Or I'm filing a police report for theft, and Sergeant Holloway, who's already investigating you for forging an eviction notice, will add it to the list. She turned slowly. Her face was blotchy, mascara smudged. It's at the impound lot on Route 49. Who owns the lot? She didn't answer. Richard did. I do. The room went silent. Marcus laughed, short, sharp. So let me get this straight. You towed a boat off private property, impounded it at a lot you own, and charged storage fees that went into your pocket. That's not an HOA enforcement action. That's theft and racketeering. Richard's face went gray. I stepped closer to Diane. You've got one chance to make this right. You return my boat tonight, you resign from the board, and you repay every family you scammed. Or I go to the sheriff, the DA, and the state attorney general, and you go to prison. She stared at me, trembling. Then she whispered, Fine. Say it louder. Fine. You'll get your boat back. Tonight. Tonight. I nodded. Good. Now get out. She left. Richard followed. The door slammed. The room erupted again. Applause, shouts, a few people crying. Tom shook my hand. Linda hugged Emma. Marcus clapped me on the shoulder. But I felt hollow. Because I knew this wasn't over. How would you expose Karen in public? Because what happened next, I didn't see coming. At 9:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. Motion alert, dock camera. I pulled up the feed. A flatbed truck was backing down the boat ramp. 2 men were unloading the Iris. I grabbed my keys and ran. By the time I got to the dock, the truck was gone. The Iris sat in the water, tied to the dock, sails furled. She looked intact, no damage I could see. I stood there in the dark, listening to the water lap against the hull, and let myself breathe for the first time in 3 weeks. Then I saw it. Tucked under the tiller, a small plastic bag. Inside, a handwritten note. You win. But this isn't over. D. I'd exposed Diane Korman in front of the entire neighborhood. She'd been voted out as HOA president. Her fraudulent bank accounts were frozen, and my grandfather's sailboat was back at my dock. But as I stood there at midnight, reading her handwritten threat, you win. But this isn't over. I realized something. People who run 4-year embezzlement schemes don't just walk away. Diane wasn't done, and neither was I. Because the next morning, I found out just how deep the scam really went. June 5th, 8:15 a.m. I was on the porch with coffee when Marcus called. Danny, we've got a problem. What now? I spent last night going through the HOA's bank records in detail. The special assessments account? It's worse than we thought. How? The $287,000 in deposits. Those are just the successful shakedowns. I cross-referenced the account activity with county property records and found another 38 families who received fake lien notices or fake fines, but didn't pay. Diane sent them to collections. Collections? How? The liens were fake. She used a debt collection agency called Ridgemont Recovery Services. Guess who owns it? I closed my eyes. Richard. Bingo. He'd send threatening letters on law firm letterhead, claiming the HOA had retained counsel to collect unpaid assessments. Most people ignored them because the amounts were small, $200, $300. But a few paid, and those payments went straight into the special assessments account. So he was running a fake collections racket on top of the fake liens. Correct. And here's the kicker. I pulled Richard's bar records. He's been reprimanded twice. Once in 2012 for misrepresenting client funds. Once in 2017 for filing frivolous liens. He's one complaint away from disbarment. So we file a complaint. We will. But there's something else. The HOA's operating account, the legitimate one, shows regular payments to a company called Tompkins Surveying LLC. $1,200 a month for the past 3 years. That's $43,200. For what? According to the invoices, ongoing boundary consultation and maintenance. But Danny, Gerald Tompkins died in 2019. His license was revoked in 2007. So who the hell is Tompkins Surveying LLC? I set down my coffee. Pull the corporate filings. I did. The LLC was registered in 2020. The listed agent is Diane Korman. I felt the ground shift. She created a fake company under a dead surveyor's name and paid herself $1,200 a month for services that didn't exist. For 3 years. That's $43,200 in embezzlement on top of the $91,000 salary and the fake fines. We're looking at over $420,000 in total fraud. I sat down. How did nobody catch this? Because nobody audits HOAs. The board signs off on the treasurer's report every month, but they don't verify the invoices. Diane controlled the bank accounts, the invoices, and the board. She had total access. So what do? We go to the DA. This isn't civil anymore. It's criminal. Wire fraud, embezzlement, identity theft, forgery. She's looking at 10 years minimum. And Richard, he's an accomplice. Conspiracy, racketeering, maybe disbarment. They're both going down. I exhaled. Good. But Danny, there's one more thing. What? The fake eviction notice you received. The one with the forged sheriff's signature? I sent it to a forensic document examiner. The signature stamp is a commercial product you can buy online. But the letterhead, the county seal, the formatting, it's identical to a template used by the Mecklenburg County Clerk's office. Which means whoever made it had access to internal county documents. You think Diane has someone inside the county? I think it's possible. And if she does, we need to find out who, before they destroy evidence. That afternoon, Marcus and I drove to the Mecklenburg County DA's office. We met with Assistant DA Lauren Cho, a sharp woman in her late 30s who specialized in white-collar crime. We laid out everything. The bank records, the affidavits, the fake liens, the fake eviction notice, the shell companies. She listened, took notes, then leaned back. This is a solid case. I'll open an investigation. But I need to warn you, cases like this take time. We're talking months, maybe a year before trial. What about an arrest? I asked. We'll need to finish the investigation first. Interview witnesses, subpoena records, build the timeline. If Diane or Richard try to flee or destroy evidence, we can move faster. But right now, they're not a flight risk. They threatened my daughter. They stalked my house. They forged law enforcement documents. I understand, and we'll pursue charges. But the system moves slowly. In the meantime, you need to stay safe. If they contact you again, call the police immediately. We left. In the parking lot, Marcus said, I know that's not what you wanted to hear. No, but it's what I expected. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize. No voicemail. Then a text came through. We need to talk. Meet me at the clubhouse. 6 p.m. alone. D. I showed Marcus. He frowned. Don't go. I have to. If she's ready to confess. She's not. She's going to threaten you, or try to buy you off, or record you saying something she can use in court. It's a trap. Then I'll record it too. Danny, I'm going. But I'm not going alone. At 5:45 p.m., I pulled into the clubhouse parking lot. Diane's white Lexus was already there. I parked, checked my phone, voice recorder app running, tucked in my shirt pocket, and walked inside. The meeting room was empty except for Diane. She sat at the same folding table, hands clasped, no makeup, hair pulled back. She looked 10 years older than she had 2 days ago. "Daniel," she said quietly, "thank you for coming. I stayed by the door. You've got 5 minutes. I want to apologize." I laughed, short, bitter. For what? Stealing my boat? Forging a lien? Threatening my daughter? Embezzling $500,000? For all of it. Her voice cracked. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Then why did it? She looked down. Because I was desperate. Desperate for what? Money? Power? Both. She wiped her eyes. Richard's law practice was failing. We were drowning in debt, credit cards, medical bills, his mother's nursing home. We were going to lose everything. So I started with small fines. Just enough to cover expenses. But then people paid, and it was so easy, and Richard said we could do more, and she broke off, sobbing. I felt nothing. You scammed 70 families. You forged government documents. You put my daughter through hell. And now you want me to feel sorry for you. No. I want you to let me make it right. How? She pulled an envelope from her purse and set it on the table. This is a cashier's check for $50,000. It's everything I have left. Take it. Drop the charges. I'll resign from the board, leave Ridgemont Pines, and you'll never see me again. I stared at the envelope. $50,000 doesn't cover what you stole. It's all I have. Richard's accounts are frozen. The house is mortgaged. Please, Daniel. I'm begging you. You should have thought about that before you forged an eviction notice. Her face hardened. Fine. Then let me tell you what happens if you don't take this deal. Richard and I have a lawyer. A real one, not Richard. He's filing a countersuit tomorrow. We're claiming you trespassed on HOA property, vandalized the clubhouse, and defamed us in front of the neighborhood. We'll tie you up in court for years. And even if you win, you'll spend a fortune on legal fees. So take the money, drop the charges, and walk away. Or we'll destroy you. I smiled. You're bluffing. Try me. I pulled out my phone and stopped the recording. Thanks for the confession. Her face went white. You recorded this? Every word. Including the part where you admitted to embezzlement and tried to bribe me. The DA's going to love it. She lunged for my phone. I stepped back. The door opened. Marcus walked in, followed by Sergeant Holloway and another deputy. Diane froze. Holloway looked at me. You get it. I held up my phone. Every word. He nodded. Diane Korman, you're under arrest for embezzlement, wire fraud, forgery, and attempted bribery. You have the right to remain silent. She didn't resist. She didn't cry. She just stood there, hands cuffed behind her back, staring at me with empty eyes. As Holloway let her out, Marcus put a hand on my shoulder. You okay? Yeah, I think I am. But I wasn't. Because the next morning, I got a call from Tom and Gwen. Daniel, you need to see this. I drove to his house. He handed me a printed email. It was from Ridgemont Pines HOA, interim board, dated June 6th. Dear residents, following the recent removal of former President Diane Korman, the board has appointed an interim president to oversee operations while we conduct a full financial audit. Please join us for a special meeting on June 10th to discuss next steps. Interim President Alan Voss. I looked at Tom. Who's Alan Voss? He was on the board. One of the guys sitting next to Diane at the meeting. You think he's clean? Tom shook his head. I think he's been there the whole time. And I think he knew. I called Marcus. We've got a problem. That night, I pulled the HOA's board meeting minutes for the past 4 years. Alan Voss had been treasurer for 3 years, the same period Diane had been embezzling. He'd signed off on every financial report, every fake invoice, every fraudulent payment. He wasn't just complicit. He was the architect. And now he was in charge. Diane Korman was under arrest. Her husband Richard was facing disbarment and conspiracy charges. The HOA's fraudulent accounts were frozen. I'd won, or so I thought. But the morning after Diane's arrest, I discovered that the interim HOA president, Alan Voss, had been the treasurer for 3 years. He'd signed off on every fake invoice, every fraudulent payment, every embezzled dollar. Diane wasn't the mastermind. She was the face. Alan Voss was the architect, and now he was in control. I had 4 days until the special board meeting on June 10th. 4 days to prove Alan was dirty before he buried the evidence and disappeared. I called Marcus at 7 a.m. We need to dig into Alan Voss. Everything. Corporate filings, property records, criminal history. I'm already on it. I pulled his name last night after you called. Alan Voss, age 54, works in IT for a medical billing company. No criminal record. Homeowner in Ridgemont Pines since 2008. On the HOA board since 2021. Treasurer since 2022. So he joined the board right when Diane ramped up the scam. Correct. And get this, the fake company Diane used, Tompkins Surveying LLC, lists Alan Voss as the registered agent on the original 2020 filing. Diane's name was added later, in 2022, after he became treasurer. I sat down. So Alan created the shell company, then handed it to Diane to use as a front. That's my read. And there's more. I pulled his property records. In 2021, Alan bought a second home, a lake house in Tennessee. Purchase price, $340,000. He paid cash. On an IT salary? Exactly. I'm guessing he siphoned money from the HOA, laundered it through the shell companies, and used it to buy assets under his name. Diane got a salary. Richard got legal fees. But Alan got real estate. Can we prove it? Not yet. But the DA's forensic accountant can trace the money once we give them Alan's name. The problem is time. If Alan knows we're on to him, he'll transfer assets, destroy records, maybe even flee. We need to move fast. What if we don't wait for the DA? What if we confront him at the board meeting? Marcus hesitated. That's risky. If he lawyers up, we lose the element of surprise. But if we wait, he disappears. We do this publicly, in front of the whole neighborhood, just like we did with Diane. We lay out the evidence, call for a vote, and force him to resign. Then the DA can arrest him. And if he denies it, then we make sure the evidence is so airtight he can't. Marcus sighed. All right, let's build the case. Over the next 3 days, Marcus and I worked around the clock. We subpoenaed Alan's personal bank records, cross-referenced them with the HOA's accounts, and traced every dollar. The pattern was clear. 2020 to 2021, Alan created Tompkins Surveying LLC and Ridgemont Recovery Services. Both were shell companies with no employees, no office, no services. 2021 to 2022, the HOA began paying Tompkins Surveying $1,200 per month for fake boundary consultation. Payments went to an account controlled by Alan. 2022 to 2024, Diane joined the board, became president, and took over as the public face of the scam. Alan remained treasurer, approving every fraudulent payment. 2021, Alan bought the Tennessee lake house for $340,000 cash, exactly matching the total amount paid to Tompkins Surveying up to that point. We also found something else. Alan had been filing fake HOA liens not just in Ridgemont Pines, but in 3 other neighborhoods where he'd served on HOA boards over the past decade. He'd run the same scam before, small scale, under the radar, and gotten away with it. This guy's a pro, Marcus said. He's been doing this for years. Then why did he stay in Ridgemont Pines? Because it was working. He had Diane as a front, Richard as the legal cover, and a neighborhood full of people too scared or too trusting to ask questions. He got greedy, and now he's going to pay for it. We compiled everything into a presentation: bank records, property records, corporate filings, and a timeline showing Alan's role in every phase of the fraud. We burned it onto a USB drive and prepared printed copies for the board meeting. Then, on June 9th, the day before the meeting, I got a call from an unknown number. Mr. Archer? A woman's voice, nervous. Yes. My name is Rachel Voss. I'm Alan's wife. I need to talk to you. We met at a coffee shop in Charlotte, 20 miles from Ridgemont Pines. Rachel Voss was in her early 50s, thin, with tired eyes and hands that wouldn't stop moving. She sat across from me, gripping a paper cup, and said, I know what Alan did. How much do you know? All of it. The fake companies, the embezzlement, the liens. I found the bank statements 2 years ago. I confronted him. He told me it was just business, that everyone on HOA boards did it, that we needed the money. Did you report it? She looked down. No. I was afraid. Alan's not. He's not a violent man, but he's controlling. He handles all the money. I don't even have access to our accounts. And he told me if I said anything, he'd make sure I went down with him. Conspiracy, aiding and abetting. I didn't know if that was true, but I was terrified. Why are you telling me now? Because he's planning to run. He booked a flight to the Cayman Islands for June 11th, the day after the board meeting. He's going to resign, apologize, and disappear before anyone can stop him. I leaned forward. Do you have proof? Documents, emails, anything? She pulled a flash drive from her purse. Bank statements, emails between Alan and Diane, corporate filings, everything. I copied it all last night while he was asleep. I took the drive. Why are you doing this? Her eyes filled. Because I'm tired of being afraid. And because what he did to your family, to your daughter, that's not the man I married. Or maybe it is, and I just didn't want to see it. She stood. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. And I'm testifying against him if the DA asks. But please, Mr. Archer, stop him before he gets on that plane. She left. I sat there, staring at the flash drive, feeling the weight of it. Then I called Marcus. We've got him. June 10th, 7 p.m. The clubhouse was packed again, standing room only. Alan Voss sat at the front table, flanked by 2 other board members. He looked calm, confident, like a man who thought he'd already won. I sat in the front row with Marcus, Emma, and Tom and Gwen. The flash drive was in my pocket. The printed evidence was in Marcus's briefcase. Alan banged the gavel. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. As you know, we're here to discuss the transition following Diane Korman's removal and arrest. First, I want to assure you that the board is committed to transparency and accountability. We've hired an independent auditor to review the HOA's finances, and we'll share the results as soon as they're available. Someone in the back shouted, "When will that be?" 4 to 6 weeks. Tom stood. That's not good enough. We want answers now. Alan smiled, thin, patronizing. I understand your frustration, Mr. Nguyen, but financial audits take time. In the meantime, I'm proposing we move forward with normal operations. Normal operations? I stood. You mean the operations where you embezzled $340,000 to buy a lake house in Tennessee? The room went silent. Alan's smile vanished. Excuse me. Marcus stood. Alan Voss, you created 2 shell companies, Tompkins Surveying LLC and Ridgemont Recovery Services, and used them to funnel HOA funds into your personal accounts. You've been running this scam since 2020, and you've done it in at least 3 other neighborhoods before Ridgemont Pines. Alan's face went red. That's a lie. It's documented. Marcus pulled the printed evidence from his briefcase and handed copies to the board in the front row. Page 1. Corporate filings showing you as the registered agent for both shell companies. Page 2. Bank records showing payments from the HOA to accounts you control. Page 3. Property records showing you bought a $340,000 lake house in cash in 2021, the same year the HOA started paying Tompkins Surveying. Alan stood. This is a witch hunt. Page 4, I said, is an email from you to Diane Korman, dated March 2022, with the subject line New Revenue Streams. You wrote, and I quote, "We should increase lien notices to $500 minimum. Most people won't fight it, and the ones who do will settle for less. Let's target new homeowners. They don't know the bylaws." The room erupted. People shouted. Alan grabbed his phone. "I'm calling my lawyer." "Don't bother," Marcus said. "Your wife already gave us everything. Bank statements, emails, flight reservations to the Cayman Islands. She's filing for divorce and testifying against you." Alan went pale. He looked around the room, at the faces staring at him, the anger, the betrayal, and then he ran. He bolted for the side door. Tom and Gwen stepped in front of it. Alan shoved him. Tom didn't move. 2 other men grabbed Alan's arms. The front door opened. Sergeant Holloway walked in with 3 deputies. Alan Voss, Holloway said, "You're under arrest for embezzlement, wire fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering." They cuffed him. As they let him out, he looked at me, just once, and I saw it. Not anger, not defiance. Just empty, hollow defeat. The door closed. The room erupted in applause. Over the next 2 weeks, the dominoes fell. Alan Voss was charged with 14 counts of fraud and embezzlement. He pled guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence, 8 years, restitution of $340,000, and forfeiture of the Tennessee property. Richard Korman was disbarred and sentenced to 3 years for conspiracy and operating a fraudulent debt collection service. Diane Korman pled guilty to 6 counts of fraud and forgery. She received 5 years and was ordered to repay $91,000. The DA's office identified 43 additional victims across 3 counties. Total restitution, $680,000. The Ridgemont Pines HOA was dissolved by a unanimous vote. The neighborhood formed a voluntary homeowners association with no fees, no fines, and no board, just a quarterly meeting to discuss shared concerns. The lake boundary was officially resurveyed by the county. My dock, and 50 feet of water beyond it, was confirmed as private property. And on a Saturday morning in late June, I took Emma out on the Iris for the first time since my grandfather died. We sailed to the center of the lake, dropped anchor, and sat in silence, listening to the water. "Dad," Emma said. "Yeah, I'm proud of you." I smiled. "I'm proud of you too, kiddo." 3 months later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside, a single handwritten note. "You were right. I should have walked away. But I didn't, and now I'm paying for it. I hope your daughter knows how lucky she is. D." I read it once, then burned it in the fireplace. Some people deserve forgiveness. Some don't. And some, like Diane, will spend the rest of their lives trying to figure out which one they are. As for me, I'm done fighting HOAs. I'm done with scams and fake liens, and people who think power means taking from others. I'm just a guy with a sailboat, a daughter, and a lake that's finally ours. And that's enough. So tell me, have you ever dealt with an HOA scam? What did you do? Drop your story in the comments. And if this helped you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. You'd think that after Alan Voss was arrested, after Diane and Richard pled guilty, after the HOA was dissolved and the lake boundary was confirmed, you'd think that would be the end of it. It wasn't. Because 3 weeks after Alan's sentencing, I received a subpoena. The FBI wanted to talk to me about a multi-state HOA fraud ring. Turns out, Alan Voss wasn't just running scams in North Carolina. He'd been doing it in Georgia, Tennessee, and South Carolina for over a decade, and he wasn't working alone. The architect had a network, and I'd just blown it wide open. I met Special Agent Carla Mendez at the FBI field office in Charlotte on a Tuesday morning in late July. She was early 40s, no nonsense, with a folder 3 inches thick. "Mr. Archer," she said, shaking my hand. "Thank you for coming in. I've read your case file. Impressive work. I just wanted my boat back." She smiled. "You got a lot more than that." Alan Voss has been on our radar for 2 years. We've been tracking a pattern of HOA fraud across 4 states. Fake liens, shell companies, embezzlement. But we could never connect the dots. Then you handed us Alan, and he started talking. What did he say? She opened the folder. Alan wasn't the mastermind. He was middle management. The operation was run by a man named Vincent Caruso, a former real estate attorney who lost his license in 2008 for fraud. Caruso recruits people like Alan, IT guys, accountants, low-level board members, and teaches them how to run HOA scams. He takes a cut of the profits, provides legal cover, and moves them to new neighborhoods when things get hot. How many people are we talking about? At least 30 operatives across 12 states. Estimated total fraud, $14 million. I sat back. Jesus. Caruso's smart. He never touches the money directly. He uses shell companies, offshore accounts, and a rotating cast of front men. But Alan gave us names, account numbers, and emails. We're building a RICO case, racketeer-influenced and corrupt organizations. If we can prove Caruso's running a criminal enterprise, we can take down the entire network. What do you need from me? Testimony. You're one of the few victims who fought back and won. Your case is clean, well-documented, and compelling. If this goes to trial, we'll need you on the stand. I thought about Emma, about the last 3 months, about how close we'd come to losing everything. I'll do it. Good. But Mr. Archer, I need to warn you, Caruso's dangerous. He's got money, connections, and a history of intimidating witnesses. If he finds out you're cooperating, he may come after you. Let him try. She handed me a business card. If anything happens, anything unusual, any threats, any contact from people you don't know, you call me immediately. Understood. I took the card. Understood. 2 weeks later, I was in the garage when my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Daniel Archer? A man's voice, smooth, educated. Who's this? A friend. I heard you've been talking to the FBI. I went cold. Who is this? Someone who'd like to help you avoid a mistake. The people you're testifying against, they're not the kind of people you want as enemies. If this is a threat, it's advice. You've already won your case. You got your boat back, the HOA's gone, everyone's happy. Why risk your family's safety for someone else's vendetta? Because it's the right thing to do. He laughed, soft, condescending. The right thing. That's admirable, Daniel. But righteousness doesn't pay your daughter's hospital bills. What did you just say? Am I right? 16, varsity swim team, junior at Ridgemont High. Beautiful girl. It'd be a shame if something happened to her. My hand tightened on the phone. If you touch my daughter. I'm not going to touch anyone, Daniel. I'm just reminding you that the world is full of accidents. Car crashes. Home invasions. Tragic, random violence. You can prevent all of that by making one simple choice. Don't testify. Go to hell. He sighed. I'll give you 48 hours to reconsider. After that, I can't guarantee your family's safety. He hung up. I stood there, shaking, then called Agent Mendez. She answered on the first ring. They just threatened my daughter. Where are you? Home. Stay there. I'm sending a protection detail. Don't leave the house. Don't answer the door. And don't talk to anyone you don't know. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Within an hour, 2 FBI agents were parked outside my house in an unmarked car. Agent Mendez sat at my kitchen table, recording my statement. Did he give a name? No. But he knew Emma's name, her school, her schedule. We'll trace the call. In the meantime, we're putting you and Emma in protective custody until the trial. For how long? 4 to 6 weeks. We're fast-tracking the indictments. Once Caruso's arrested, the threat level drops. Emma came downstairs, backpack over her shoulder. Dad, what's going on? I looked at Mendez. She nodded. Emma, sit down. I need to tell you something. I explained everything. The FBI investigation, the threat, the protection detail. She listened, face pale, then said, So we have to leave? Just for a little while. Until it's safe. What about school? Swim team. We'll figure it out. She looked at me, eyes filling. I'm so tired of running, Dad. I know. But this is the last time. I promise. She nodded. Okay. 6 weeks later, Vincent Caruso was arrested at his estate in Hilton Head, South Carolina. The indictment listed 47 counts: racketeering, wire fraud, money laundering, witness intimidation, and conspiracy. 12 of his operatives, including Alan Voss, agreed to testify in exchange for reduced sentences. The trial began in October. I testified on day 3. The courtroom was packed: journalists, victims, federal prosecutors. Caruso sat at the defense table in a tailored suit, silver hair slicked back, expression bored. The prosecutor, a woman named Janet Ruiz, walked me through my story: the stolen boat, the fake lien, the forged eviction notice, the confrontation with Diane and Alan. I showed the jury the documents, the bank records, the emails. Then Ruiz asked, Mr. Archer, did anyone try to stop you from testifying today? Yes. A man called me 2 months ago and threatened my daughter. What did he say? I repeated the conversation, word for word. The jury leaned forward. Caruso's lawyer objected. Hearsay, prejudicial. The judge overruled. Mr. Archer, Ruiz said, why are you here today? Because no one should have to live in fear of their own neighborhood. Because people like Vincent Caruso prey on ordinary families, and they get away with it because we're too scared or too tired to fight back. I'm here because someone has to say, enough. The courtroom was silent. No further questions. Caruso's lawyer cross-examined me for an hour, trying to poke holes in my timeline, my evidence, my motives. I didn't budge. When he was done, the judge dismissed me. As I walked past the defense table, Caruso looked up. Our eyes met. He smiled, thin, cold. I smiled back. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Verdict: guilty on all counts. Vincent Caruso was sentenced to 22 years in federal prison. His assets, $8.3 million, were seized and distributed to victims. 12 of his operatives received sentences ranging from 3 to 10 years. Alan Voss's sentence was reduced to 5 years for his cooperation. Diane and Richard Korman served their full terms. And on a cold morning in November, I stood outside the federal courthouse with Emma and Marcus, watching the news vans pack up and drive away. You did it, Marcus said. We did it. Emma hugged me. Can we go home now? Yeah, kiddo. We can go home. Spring came back to Ridgemont Pines. The neighborhood was quieter now. No HOA meetings, no fines, no threats. Just neighbors helping neighbors, the way it was supposed to be. Tom and Linda and Gwen started a community garden. Jerry and Susan Holt hosted a 4th of July cookout. Emma made the swim team finals and got early acceptance to UNC. And me? I took the Iris out every Saturday, sometimes alone, sometimes with Emma. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. One afternoon in April, I was at the dock, tightening the rigging, when a car pulled up. A woman stepped out, mid-30s, professional, holding a folder. Mr. Archer? Yes. My name is Lauren Hastings. I'm a reporter with the Charlotte Observer. I'm writing a story about HOA fraud and how victims are fighting back. I'd love to interview you. I thought about it. About Diane's note, about Alan's empty eyes, about Caruso's cold smile. No thanks. Are you sure? Your story could help a lot of people. It already has. She nodded, handed me a business card. If you change your mind. She left. I stood there, watching the water, and thought about my grandfather, the man who built this dock, who taught me to sail, who believed that some things are worth fighting for. He was right. But he also taught me that once the fight is over, you let it go. You don't carry it with you. You don't let it define you. You just sail. So that's my story. If you've made it this far, thank you. If you're dealing with something similar, an HOA scam, a corrupt board, a system that feels rigged, know this. You're not alone. Document everything. Find allies. Fight back. And don't stop until you win. Because the people who count on your silence, they're counting on you to give up. Don't. Thanks for watching. And if this story helped you, share it. Someone out there needs to hear it. Take care of each other.